Let's talk about a revolution in AI that completely changed the game for us all, and it all happened in just 60 days. Seriously, if you think you know what AI can do for public relations, well, get ready because everything has had a major update. Look at this timeline. On September 1st, 2025, we were all pretty comfortable thinking of AI as a neat little assistant, right? Good for drafting an email, maybe summarizing a long report. But then just 2 months later, that assistant had evolved. It wasn't just a tool anymore, it was an entire ecosystem of thinking partners, autonomous agents, and simulation tools. This wasn't just a small step up, it was a whole new world. So, how did that happen so fast? Well, that's what we're going to unpack here. We'll look at the smarter AI models that were the engine for all this. Then we'll see how they went from just thinking to actually doing things as agents. After that, we'll dive into the wild new ability to simulate reality. And finally, we'll cover the new rules of trust you have to know to be able to navigate all this. First, let's get into the brains behind the whole operation, the foundational AI models themselves. This is where all that new power and intelligence really comes from. This quote right here is so important because it helps us focus on what we need to think about. The biggest mistake any of us can make right now is to look at AI and just see a fancy content machine. That's not what they are anymore. They are strategic thinking partners built to help you explore really complex scenarios and stakeholder dynamics. So, what is an AI model? At its heart, it's a massive system that's been trained on an unbelievable amount of data. Think of it like a brilliant brainstorming partner you can bring in for some seriously deep analysis. Let's meet the key players that drove this big leap. You've got OpenAI's GPT-5, which is just fantastic at reasoning across both text and images. That makes it perfect for complex scenario planning. Then there's Anthropic's Claude 3.7, which really gets context and has built-in ethical guardrails, making it ideal for tasks like policy development. And of course, Google's Gemini 2, which is this multimodal beast that can interpret live video and conversation, giving you a real-time pulse on what people are actually saying and seeing. But here's where it gets really cool. These incredibly powerful thinking partners didn't just stay inside a chat window. They left the window and learnt how to take action in the real world, and they evolved into what we now call agents. So an AI agent is the next step in this evolution. You take one of those powerful models we just talked about, you give it access to tools like your calendar, a web browser, internal files, and then you let it run with a complex goal. It's the difference between asking an AI for ideas for a project and just asking it to complete the project for you. And you can see how each of the big providers turn their models into these action-taking agents. OpenAI, for example, gave GPT-5 the ability to manage entire workflows. Anthropic lets you equip Claude with specific skills, so it can do things like perform an ethical review or a risk analysis on a new comms plan. And Google has put Gemini agents right inside Workspace, where they can pull key intelligence directly from your meetings and documents automatically. So the takeaway here is absolutely crucial. When you start using these agents, your job fundamentally changes. You're not the writer anymore, you're the orchestrator. You're not just banging out prompts for copy. Instead, you're designing workflows, setting up smart guardrails, and creating really clear processes for human review. Governance is everything now. But the revolution didn't stop at agents. The next incredible leap was moving beyond just analysing the world as it is to actually simulating the world as it could be visually. Prompts for OpenAI's Sora 2 or Google's Veo can take you anywhere, make you anyone. Whether you give it a full-on director's brief or ask for a dragon in the hills, AI can spit out a totally photorealistic video from just that text. The possibilities here are mind-blowing and terrifying all at once. This changes the game once again. And remember, this is all happening in the last 2 months. The old way, use AI to generate content about your strategy. The new way is to use AI to simulate your strategy. You can visualize how a new corporate policy might be received or create super realistic training videos for a crisis situation, or literally show stakeholders what a future project is going to look and feel like. Remember, we started with AI living in a separate chat window. Then we got agents that could use tools and APIs to reach out into the world. But the final piece of the puzzle in this 60-day sprint was full integration, which made all these powerful tools a totally seamless part of our daily work. And look, this is a much bigger deal than it might sound. In October, when browsers like ChatGPT Atlas and Perplexity's Comet became available, AI stopped being a website you go to, it became the vehicle. Everything happens natively. Insights that used to take hours are with you in real time. This explosion of power and capability brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation: trust. Because with these new superpowers, the rules for protecting your organization's relationships, reputation, and its very license to operate have completely changed. We all know the phrase, right? With this kind of unprecedented power to analyze, to act, and to simulate reality comes an equally unprecedented level of responsibility. So, what does that actually look like in our day-to-day work? Here are the non-negotiables you must always disclose when media is synthetic. Get explicit consent before using anyone's likeness. And yep, that includes your own employees in a training video. And every major decision that AI helps with needs a documented rationale. A human being must always be in the loop for final verification, and you have to be so careful about ensuring cultural care and diversity in everything you generate. These aren't just suggestions anymore. This is the new foundation of ethical practice. Really, that's the core of it all. Use these incredible simulation tools to make sense of a really complex world, but never, ever forget that your ability to do that is built entirely on a foundation of trust, and that trust is safeguarded only through total transparency, disclosure, and consent.